The Grand Assembly Hall was the largest structure ever built by any species in the galaxy. It floated at the center of Valorian space, a massive station where representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered to witness the will of the Empire. Today, every seat was filled. Every screen across 100 star systems carried the live broadcast. Emperor Zorath Vel had called this gathering for one purpose, and everyone knew what it was. War. Daniel Carter stood alone in the center of the hall. He was the human envoy, a man in his late 40s with gray at his temples and calm eyes that revealed nothing. Around him, thousands of alien delegates watched from their elevated seats. Some looked at him with pity, others with curiosity. A few seemed almost sad, as if watching a small animal about to be crushed by a machine it could not understand. The Valorian Empire had conquered over 200 star systems in the past 3 centuries. They were not the oldest species in the galaxy, nor the most advanced, but they were the most aggressive. They had perfected the art of overwhelming force, striking fast and hard until their enemies broke. No species had ever successfully resisted them. No species had ever tried. Emperor Zorath rose from his throne. He was tall, even by Valorian standards, with dark blue skin and 4 arms that he spread wide as if embracing the entire hall. "Today, we address the matter of the humans," he announced. His voice echoed through the chamber, translated into 100 languages simultaneously. A young species. A primitive species. A species that has forgotten its place. Daniel did not move. He simply watched. "The humans have expanded beyond their tiny world," Zorath continued. "They have built ships. They have claimed systems. They have acted as if they are our equals." He paused, letting the words sink in. "They are not." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The Valorians in attendance made sounds of approval. The conquered species remained silent, their fear too deep for words. "The humans have refused to pay tribute. They have rejected our generous offers of protection. They have insulted our ambassadors and ignored our warnings." Zorath's eyes fixed on Daniel. "And so, in accordance with ancient tradition, I declare that a state of war now exists between the Valorian Empire and the human civilization of Earth." The hall fell absolutely silent. This was the moment that had destroyed countless worlds before. The moment when the Valorian Empire formally announced its intention to conquer. The moment when species begged for mercy, offered surrender, or simply accepted their fate. Daniel Carter laughed, but it was not a nervous laugh. It was not a laugh of madness or despair. It was the genuine, amused laugh of a man who had just heard the funniest joke of his life. The silence that followed was unlike anything the assembly had ever experienced. Emperor Zorath's expression shifted from triumph to confusion to rage in the span of 2 seconds. "You dare to laugh?" he demanded. "You stand before the greatest military power in the galaxy, and you laugh?" Daniel controlled himself with some effort, wiping a tear from his eye. "My apologies, Emperor. It has been a long wait, and I am simply relieved that we can finally proceed." "Proceed?" Zorath leaned forward on his throne. "Proceed with what? Your destruction?" "No," Daniel said. His voice was calm, almost friendly. "Proceed with yours." The Emperor stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed too, though his laugh carried no amusement. "You are insane. Your species has perhaps 50 warships. We have 10,000. Your people have known space travel for barely 2 centuries. We have ruled these stars for 3,000 years. What could you possibly do against us?" Daniel reached into his pocket. Every guard in the hall raised their weapons, but he simply pulled out a small device no larger than a coin. He pressed it once. "That," he said, "was a signal. In approximately 30 seconds, you will understand what it means." The Emperor gestured to his guards. "Seize him," The guards moved forward, but before they could reach Daniel, every screen in the assembly hall flickered. The broadcast that had been showing the Emperor's face suddenly split into 12 different feeds. Each feed showed a different location. Each location was a Valorian military installation, and each installation was under attack. Explosions, ships emerging from hiding spots in asteroid fields, soldiers in human armor breaching airlocks, communication towers falling silent. The hall erupted into chaos. "What is this?" Zorath screamed. "What have you done?" Daniel stood perfectly still as guards finally grabbed his arms. He did not resist. He did not need to. "6 months ago," he said, his voice cutting through the panic, "we intercepted your war plans. We knew this day was coming. We knew you would gather the entire galaxy to watch our humiliation. And we let you. We needed you distracted. We needed your attention here, on this stage, while our ships moved into position." On the screens, 12 military bases fell silent. The feeds showed human soldiers raising Earth's flag over captured Valorian installations. "You announced your war publicly, as you always do," Daniel continued. "You wanted to terrify us into submission. Instead, you gave us the exact moment to strike. Thank you for that." The Emperor's face had gone pale. "My fleets will destroy your world for this. Every human will burn." Daniel smiled. "Your fleets are currently surrounded. Check your communications. You will find that you cannot reach any of them." A Valorian officer rushed to a console, frantically entering commands. His face went white. He turned to the Emperor and shook his head. "This is impossible," Zorath whispered. "No," Daniel said. "This is humanity. And your empire ends today." 6 months earlier, Admiral Kevin Walsh had received the intelligence report that changed everything. A Valorian communications officer had defected, bringing with him detailed plans for the invasion of Earth. The Empire had scheduled humanity's destruction for the spring. They had allocated 50 warships for the campaign, believing that would be more than enough to crush the young species. They were wrong about many things. That was just the first. Walsh had spent 30 years in Earth's military. He had fought pirates in the outer colonies and negotiated with hostile species near the Galactic Rim. He understood something that the Valorians did not. Humanity did not wait for threats to arrive. Humanity went out and destroyed them first. The plan came together in secret. Earth's government told no one. Their allies received no warning. The operation was known only to the commanders who would execute it and the soldiers who would fight it. They called it Operation Silence. Now, as chaos erupted in the Grand Assembly Hall, that operation reached its peak. Admiral Lisa Monroe commanded the stealth division from her ship, the Quiet Storm. Her fleet had spent 3 months hiding in asteroid fields throughout Valorian space, their ships running on minimal power to avoid detection. When Daniel's signal came, she gave the order. "All units weapons free. Execute primary targets." Across the Valorian border systems, human ships emerged from their hiding spots. They struck communication relays first, cutting the Empire's ability to coordinate its forces. Then they hit military installations, targeting weapons platforms and defensive stations. Within 15 minutes, the Empire's entire border defense network went dark. Captain Ryan Peters led the ground teams. His soldiers had infiltrated Valorian stations weeks ago, posing as traders, mechanics, and laborers. When the signal came, they revealed themselves. Security centers fell. Command posts were captured. Prison facilities holding political dissidents were liberated. In the assembly hall, Daniel watched the screens with satisfaction. The delegates around him were in complete panic. Some were trying to flee. Others were calling their homeworlds, demanding information. The Valorian guards still held Daniel's arms, but they seemed unsure what to do with him. Emperor Zorth stood frozen before his throne. His perfect plan had collapsed in minutes. His undefeated military was being torn apart by a species he had dismissed as primitive. How? He finally managed to ask. How did you hide this? Our intelligence networks span the galaxy. Daniel shrugged, as much as the guards holding him would allow. Your networks watch for what you expect to find. Large fleet movements, weapons tests, political speeches about war. We gave you none of that. Our ships move slowly, in small groups, disguised as cargo vessels. Our soldiers entered your space as individuals, not armies. We were patient. You were arrogant. The outcome was inevitable. A new set of images appeared on the screens. The main Valorian communication relay, a massive station that connected the Emperor to his forces across the Empire, was now surrounded by human warships. Admiral Walsh's fleet had arrived. Emperor Zorth, Walsh's voice came through the speakers. This is Admiral Kevin Walsh of the Earth Defense Force. Your relay station is now under our control. You may attempt to contact your fleets, but they will not hear you. You may order a counterattack, but no one will receive that order. Your empire has been cut off at the head. Zorth finally found his rage. You will pay for this. When my fleets regroup, they will burn your world to ash. Every human will die screaming. Your fleets are not regrouping, Walsh replied calmly. They are surrendering. We have positioned ships around every major Valorian battle group. Their commanders can see that they are outgunned and outmaneuvered. They are choosing survival over loyalty to an emperor who led them into a trap. Daniel pulled his arms free from the stunned guards. They did not try to stop him. You should understand something, Emperor, Daniel said, walking toward the throne. We did not want this war. We would have been happy to trade with you, to exchange knowledge and culture, to exist peacefully as neighbors. But you could not accept that. You saw a young species and assumed we were weak. You saw our small fleet and assumed we had no other weapons. You saw our diplomat smile and assumed we were afraid. He stopped at the base of the throne, looking up at the towering Valorian ruler. We were never afraid. We were waiting. And now, your empire will learn what every enemy of humanity eventually learns. We do not fight fair. We do not give warning. And we do not lose. The doors to the assembly hall burst open. Human soldiers in combat armor entered, moving with practiced efficiency. They did not fire. They did not need to. The Valorian guards dropped their weapons without being asked. Commander Megan Torres led the team. She had been on the station for weeks, mapping its layout, identifying key positions, and preparing for this moment. Now she secured the hall in less than 2 minutes. Ambassador Carter, she reported. The station is ours. All Valorian personnel have been contained. No casualties on either side. Daniel nodded. Good. We came to win a war, not to commit a massacre. He turned back to the Emperor. Remember that, Zorth. We could have killed everyone here. We chose not to. Keep that in mind when you consider your next words. The Emperor said nothing. For the first time in his long life, he had nothing to say. The delegates of the Galactic Assembly had witnessed many things over the centuries. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had watched species go extinct while others flourished. But they had never seen anything like this. A species that no one took seriously was destroying the most powerful military force in the galaxy. And they were doing it in real time on every screen in the hall. Daniel Carter stood before the gathered representatives. The Emperor still sat on his throne, but he was no longer in command. Human soldiers surrounded him, their weapons ready but not raised. This was not about violence anymore. This was about education. You are all wondering how this happened, Daniel said, addressing the crowd. You are wondering how a species with 50 warships is defeating an empire with 10,000. Let me explain. He gestured to the screens, which now showed tactical displays of the ongoing operation. Humanity has a military doctrine that we developed over thousands of years of warfare among ourselves. We call it decisive engagement. The principle is simple. Never fight a war you can avoid. But if you must fight, end it as quickly and completely as possible. Do not give your enemy time to recover. Do not give them hope of victory. Crush them so thoroughly that they never consider fighting you again. Dr. Nathan Cole watched the broadcast from Earth's military command center. He was the chief historian for the Defense Force, and his job was to help the galaxy understand what they were seeing. What Ambassador Carter is describing, he said into his recording device, is the culmination of human military evolution. We learned from our mistakes. Every time we showed mercy to an aggressive enemy, they returned stronger. Every time we let a defeated foe keep their weapons, they use those weapons against us later. We learned that true peace comes only from total victory. In the border systems, Captain Amy Lawson led her fighter squadron through the wreckage of Valorian defense platforms. Her pilots had trained for years in secret facilities, preparing for exactly this kind of operation. They knew the Valorian ships, their weapons, their tactics. They knew the blind spots in their sensor networks and the weaknesses in their armor. Squadron 3, break left and hit that carrier's engines, she ordered. Squadron 4, cover their approach. Let us end this. The Valorian carrier tried to flee, but it was too slow. Human fighters swarmed it, targeting its propulsion systems with precise strikes. Within minutes, the massive ship was drifting dead in space, its crew surrendering over emergency frequencies. General Scott Harrison coordinated the ground assault from his command ship. His forces had landed on the Empire's largest shipyard, a station where new warships were built. The Valorians had not expected anyone to attack it. It was deep in their territory, supposedly safe from any enemy. They were wrong. Shipyard secured, Harrison reported. We have captured 47 vessels under construction, including 12 heavy battleships. The Empire just lost its ability to rebuild its fleet. In the assembly hall, Daniel continued his address. Your Emperor believed that announcing this war publicly would terrify us into submission. That is what the Valorians always do. They make grand speeches. They show their massive fleets. They let their enemies imagine the horrors that await them. And it works. Most species surrender before a single shot is fired. He paused, letting the words sink in. But we are not most species. We grew up on a world that tried to kill us every day. We survived ice ages, plagues, famines, and predators larger and deadlier than anything else in the galaxy. We did not survive by being peaceful. We survived by being clever, by being ruthless, and by never, ever giving up. Emperor Zorath finally spoke. His voice was hoarse, broken. My fleets will rally. My commanders will regroup. This is not over. Daniel smiled sadly. Check the screens, Emperor. Your fleets are not rallying. They are being surrounded. Right now, Admiral Chris Bennett is offering every Valorian commander the same choice. Surrender and live. Fight and die. Most of them are choosing to live. The screen showed exactly what Daniel described. Human ships had appeared around every major Valorian battle group. They had been hiding for months, waiting for this moment. Now they revealed themselves, outnumbering the Valorian forces at every engagement point. How is this possible? A delegate from the Exarian Confederation shouted, You have 50 ships. How do you have ships everywhere? Daniel turned to address the delegate. We have 50 ships that you know about. We have been building more in secret locations for the past 20 years. We saw this war coming long before the Emperor planned it. We prepared. We waited, and when the moment came, we struck. The Valorian officers on the screens were surrendering one by one. Their ships lowered their weapons. Their soldiers laid down their arms. In less than 3 hours, the greatest military force in the galaxy had been neutralized. Emperor Zorath watched his empire collapse. There was nothing he could do. There had never been anything he could do. From the moment he decided to threaten humanity, his fate was sealed. He just had not known it yet. The war was over before most of the galaxy knew it had begun. Admiral Chris Bennett watched from his flagship as the last Valorian battle group powered down its weapons. The enemy commander, a veteran of 30 campaigns, had taken less than 10 minutes to accept the surrender terms. He had seen the human ships surrounding his fleet. He had calculated the odds. And he had chosen to save his soldiers rather than die for an emperor who had already lost. All Valorian military vessels have stood down, Bennett reported to Earth Command. We have complete control of their fleet. Casualties on both sides are minimal. This was the part of the plan that many had doubted. How could humanity defeat the Valorians without massive bloodshed? The answer was simple. They did not want to kill. They wanted to win. And winning meant breaking the enemy's will to fight, not slaughtering their soldiers. Lieutenant Stephanie Park managed the information campaign from her station. Every screen in the Empire now showed the same images. Valorian military bases under human control. Valorian commanders shaking hands with human officers. Valorian soldiers being treated with respect and dignity by their captors. The message is spreading, she reported. Civilian channels are picking it up. The Valorian people are seeing what is happening. The message was simple. Humanity was not here to conquer. Humanity was not here to enslave. Humanity was here to end a threat, nothing more. The Valorian people had nothing to fear from Earth, as long as their leaders never threatened humanity again. Ambassador Beth Crawford addressed the neutral powers from a separate broadcast. She had been preparing this speech for months, knowing that the war's success depended not just on military victory, but on political acceptance. The Galactic Council must understand our actions, she said calmly. Earth did not seek this conflict. We were threatened with destruction. We responded. But we have no interest in taking Valorian territory. We have no desire to rule over Valorian people. We ask only that the Empire be prevented from threatening us or anyone else ever again. In the assembly hall, Emperor Zorath finally rose from his throne. His guards were gone, taken into custody by human soldiers. His officers had surrendered. His communications were cut. But he still had his pride. I will not surrender, he declared. Kill me if you must, but I will not bow to primitives. Daniel Carter walked toward him. There was no anger in his expression, only a strange kind of pity. We are not asking you to surrender, Emperor. We are informing you that you have already lost. Your military is captured. Your shipyards are destroyed. Your communication network is under our control. There is nothing left for you to command. Zorath drew himself up to his full height. My personal guard will fight to the last soldier. They have sworn oaths. They will die for me. Your personal guard left 2 hours ago, Daniel said quietly. Our operatives offered them a choice. Stay and die for an emperor who led them to disaster, or leave peacefully with their honor intact. They chose to leave. You have been alone for quite some time now. The emperor looked around. His throne room, once filled with loyal soldiers, was empty except for human troops. His great hall, once the center of galactic power, was now just another captured building. For the first time in his long life, Zorath Vel understood true defeat. What do you want from me? He asked. His voice was small now. The arrogance drained from it. Daniel considered the question. We want you to understand something. The galaxy has operated on a simple principle for thousands of years. The strong take from the weak. The powerful crush the helpless. Species survive by conquering others. We reject that principle. He gestured to the screens, which now showed human soldiers helping Valorian wounded, human engineers restoring power to civilian areas, human diplomats speaking with local leaders about the future. We are not conquerors, Daniel continued. We are not here to replace your empire with our own. We are here to prove a point. Any species that threatens humanity will be destroyed. But any species that lives in peace with us will find no better friend in the galaxy. Zorath stared at the screens. He saw his soldiers being treated fairly. He saw his people receiving aid. He saw everything he had believed about humans proven wrong. You could have killed us all, he said slowly. You had the power. Why did you not use it? Daniel looked at him steadily. Because we are not you. We fight wars to end threats, not to satisfy our egos. We kill when we must, not because we enjoy it. And we believe that even our enemies deserve the chance to become something better. He turned away from the former emperor. Your reign is over, Zorath. What happens next is up to your people, not you. We suggest you spend whatever time you have left thinking about what kind of leader you could have been if you had chosen wisdom over conquest. Human soldiers escorted Zorath from his throne. He did not resist. There was no point anymore. The war was over. Now the real work would begin. 6 months had passed at the fall of the Valorian Empire. The Grand Assembly Hall looked different now. The imperial banners were gone. The throne had been removed. In their place stood a simple podium where representatives from dozens of species gathered as equals. Daniel Carter returned to the hall where he had once stood, alone against an empire. This time, he walked with Admiral Kevin Walsh at his side. They were here to witness the formal recognition of humanity as a major galactic power. The hall was full, but the atmosphere was completely different. There was no fear in the eyes of the delegates. Some still looked at humanity with caution, uncertain what to make of the species that had done the impossible. But many looked at them with something closer to hope. The former territories of the Valorian Empire had been transformed. One by one, the conquered species had declared independence. Worlds that had suffered under Valorian rule for generations were now free. They were struggling, certainly. Building new governments was never easy. But they were free to fail or succeed on their own terms. Earth had kept its promise. Human forces had withdrawn from every captured territory within weeks of the war's end. They left behind advisors who helped establish new governments, but those advisors had no authority. They offered guidance, not orders. They helped rebuild infrastructure, train local defense forces, and establish trade relationships. Then they went home. This, more than anything, had shocked the galaxy. A delegate from the Korath species rose to speak. The Korathi had been slaves under Valorian rule for 2 centuries. Their world had been stripped of resources. Their people had been forced to work in Valorian shipyards. Now they were free. When the humans came, the delegate said, "We expected new masters." That is how the galaxy works. The strong conquer the weak. The powerful use the helpless. But the humans did not conquer us. They liberated us. They asked for nothing in return. They taught us how to defend ourselves. Then they left. He turned to face Daniel directly. We do not fully understand humanity. You have the power to rule the galaxy. Why do you not use it? Daniel stood to respond. Because ruling the galaxy was never our goal. We wanted to be safe. We wanted to be free. And we wanted others to have the same chance. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Our history taught us that empires built on conquest always fall. They create enemies everywhere. They spend more resources maintaining control than they gain from their territories. And eventually, someone stronger comes along and destroys them. We chose a different path. We will have allies, not subjects. We will have trading partners, not tributaries. And we will have peace, not the constant warfare that conquest requires. The Korath delegate nodded slowly. And if someone threatens that peace? Daniel's expression hardened slightly. Then, they will face the same fate as the Valorians. We do not seek war, but we will never shy away from it. Any species that threatens Earth or its allies will discover that we are not forgiving enemies. The message was clear. Humanity wanted friendship, but humanity was not weak. They had proven their strength. Now they offered that strength to those who would stand with them. The Assembly voted to formally recognize humanity as a major galactic power. For the first time in history, this recognition was granted not through centuries of expansion, but through a single decisive demonstration. After the ceremony, Daniel met privately with representatives from a dozen smaller species. They all wanted the same thing: alliance with Earth, protection, partnership. "We saw what you did to the Valorians," the ambassador from the Troll Collective said. "We do not want to be your enemies, but we also do not want to be dependent on your protection. How do we become strong like you?" Daniel smiled. "You already took the first step by asking that question. We will help you. We will share knowledge, training, and technology. But the strength must come from within your own people. We can show you the path. You have to walk it yourselves." The meetings continued late into the night. By the time Daniel returned to his quarters, he was exhausted but satisfied. The galaxy was changing. The old order of predators and prey was giving way to something new, something better. There would be challenges ahead. Not every species would accept humanity's vision. Some would try to fill the power vacuum left by the Valorians. Some would test Earth's resolve. But Daniel was confident that humanity would face those challenges as it always had. With intelligence, with preparation, and with overwhelming force when necessary. 1 year later, on a former Valorian colony world, a small girl watched human relief workers distribute food and supplies. Her village had been destroyed during the last years of imperial rule. Now it was being rebuilt. She tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mother, why are they helping us?" "They destroyed our empire." Her mother looked at the humans working in the streets. They wore no armor. They carried no weapons. They laughed and joked with the local workers as they hauled supplies. "Because they are not like the Valorians," she said finally. "They can destroy, but they can also build. They can kill, but they choose to heal. That is what makes them so strange. And perhaps that is what makes them so valuable as friends." The girl watched a human soldier playing with local children, teaching them some kind of game that involved running and catching. "Will they stay?" she asked. "No," her mother said. "They will leave when their work is done. But I think they will come back if we need them." In the sky above, a human ship passed overhead, heading toward the next world that needed help. The galaxy was vast, and there was much work to do. But for the first time in centuries, the future looked bright.